Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of Your Last Best Hope for Conversation, the Babylon 5 podcast. In the CNC today is Karen.
Hello.
Lou.
Good morning, everyone, or whatever time of day it is.
Yes. And I am Jesse. We are talking Spider in the Web, episode 6 of the second season of Babylon 5. Talia witnesses a murder at the hands of a Free Mars member, and young Karen and young Jesse's fan crushes meet in this episode. So
yeah, I have many crushes in this episode. So
yes, So we're going to be talking about the guest cast. I'm curious to see what you guys thought of this one, because it is very much a standalone episode. But I think, and I'll reveal my cards now, I think it's a little better than the past couple of standalone episodes we've gotten. Lou, how about your hot take?
Yeah, I agree with you. It was obviously elevated by all the great guest stars, and I think I would rate it higher, but unfortunately the not the central role, but the catalyst role for the episode is the casting was not as good as the other parts of the episode casting. So, but there's a lot of intriguing stuff in here, and we finally get to see Earth in a certain aspect, I guess you could say. So that was cool, and a new mystery has been revealed to us.
Karen?
So is that you throwing shade at Michael Beck? Is that what you're saying?
Is that who that was?
Yeah. He was one of my younger crushes from the movie Xanadu. And I have to say he's pretty bad in this. But it was nice to see him in something else. And I agree 100% that I don't know that it was elevated by the performances, because I think it's a decent episode no matter what. But I do think that the guest stars brought a little more to it, especially Adrienne Barbeau. I mean, how can you go wrong with her? She's incredible. But I thought this episode was good. And is it really standalone? I mean,
yeah, I didn't think it was either, but
I'm assuming it's fitting into other stuff. So yeah, I would like to think that we're learning more about what's happening with Psi Corps, with Mars, with Earth government. So there was a lot of stuff in this episode, story heavy, and my ship is happening. Apparently.
And that ship is?
Garibaldi and Talia.
Ah, very nice.
Is that what's going on here? But we did have a Susan drop in there where she's discussing Talia. So, and that's also a ship that we have. Yep. But yeah, I dug it.
Yeah, I remember watching this one, liking it. And then during the rewatch, I went, oh, this is great. We find out that the captain collects conspiracies. He likes to know.
So would you say he's interested in spy technology?
Yeah, maybe
like so. Maybe the CIA, like maybe someone named Scarecrow back in the day.
Right.
Who knows?
And I remember being very happy to see Adrienne Barbeau. Also, and I'm going to get his name wrong, James Shargetta, who played the Mars leader.
Yeah,
really a great character actor, has been in a lot of stuff. I mean, he was
really good.
Yeah, he was very good. Had been in a lot of different things, and it was sad to see him die, but I like the idea that they talked about his death would not be in vain. Mm-hmm. And we get Jeff Conway from Taxi.
Yeah.
Playing Zach Allen.
And Jessica Walter.
Yes, who played the senator, and Jessica Walters did other well. Yeah. So as I talked about last episode, I said there's some significant guest stars in this episode. All right, so let's start. We've got, once again, this seems unfair that in a negotiation, only one side has a telepath. That just seems unfair that like she can go, yeah, that's not true. You know?
And when she left the room, You had to know that she was like, okay, they're going to talk about me behind my back.
Yeah.
And they did. The minute she left the room, they were talking about her behind her back. Plus, Talia's friends with him.
Yeah.
So isn't that a conflict
that whole setup was weird. I still don't understand why any parties would agree to that situation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Also, did you guys get the Easter egg that Adrienne Barbeau's name is Amanda Carter? And at one point, they said,
John Carter,
they said, because Asagi said, she says, I read your proposal, Mr. Asagi. Frankly, you're either insane or a very brave man. And he answers, I can well imagine that's what they said about your great grandfather, John, when he volunteered to pilot the first colony ship to Mars.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a nice little tongue in cheek, John Carter of Mars.
Mm-hmm.
I love those books from Edgar Rice Burroughs. And I will say the film based on it was not bad.
I liked it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of people at the time who had not read the books, like, God, this is so derivative of everything. And you're like, no.
Yeah.
This was all done before all this other movies.
Right. Yeah.
So,
all that stuff was based on Edgar Rice Burroughs' books. So,
exactly.
Yeah. That reminds me of the muted reception that Arthur C. Clarke, Childhood's End, got.
Yeah.
Because so much of the material in there had been co-opted by V and other SF films and whatnot, that all the new stuff in it was drained out of it. So it gets a muted reception when it's finally put to film.
Yeah.
For sure.
So there is Mr. Asagi wants to help build a new company, build in to help Mars be self-sufficient. I tend to think of Mars, right or wrong, as the American colonies, and Earth is Great Britain. They're wanting to be that free Mars. They want their own idea. I'm going to start with you, Karen. What do you think of that whole storyline? And we'll get to the murder in a little bit.
Okay, well, I feel like they need to explain a little bit more about it. Like, I mean, I understand the parallel to like the States, America wanting to be separate from.
Yeah.
So Mars, I'm guessing, was like we went and colonized Mars. Yes. And it was part of the Earth colonies, right? And now they want to be their own planet.
Yeah.
So they want to be Mars on their own.
Right.
Is that the whole, I guess I'm understanding it, but I feel like we're not getting all the background. Like, why do they want to be separate? I'm assuming they are not self-sufficient, or are they? Because it's Mars, right? I mean, there's things you can't do on Mars.
Mm-hmm. The way I read it is the proposal that Usagi had would allow Mars to become self-sufficient.
Okay.
But maybe I'm wrong.
Okay.
Because they talked about everything except the actual details of the plan.
Yeah. Right.
So we have no clue what he was offering to them.
So that's my only beef with this, is I would like more information about it. I mean, I get the basic premise of it, and I like it because we get that intrigue of there's definitely part of Earth that does not want Mars to secede from Earth. And why is that? Is it because they have resources that Earth wants? So there's a lot of questions that it brings up, but it's also really cool to think that, we've colonized other planets and that it's a futuristic feel to it. So
and I guess because Linda and I caught up on The Crown this week, that I think of this as you reach the point where you want your own independence. You want to have control your own destiny.
Yep.
And so I guess maybe it's a little bit like Puerto Rico, maybe, that they're not quite considered a full state. They're just a territory. They're neither fish nor fowl. So I think that's it. You do wonder of how much we talked about last time, right? I think you one who said it, Karen, like Texas is one of the few United States that actually has enough resources of everything you want.
I think it's the only state that can be its own country. Yeah. So if Mars has all that capability, or if this proposal was going to be that, then let's do it. Why is Earth so invested in keeping it?
Yeah, and I think we absolutely some politics in it, the not wanting to lose power, not wanting to lose control. I wonder if does Mars have resources that is so that is so vital to what was that series? There was a series of short stories or novels about, or maybe The Expanse, right, where you had to mine for ice and minerals that Earth needed, so to help with water and stuff.
Yeah,
so
I'd like to know. I'm hoping we'll find out why Earth is so invested in it.
Yeah, but there seems to be a good thing. They're clicking. They like, oh, I think I could sell this. We're going to be good. And then he ends up getting killed. So then we resorted into a little bit of a mystery. And Talia is involved with this because she saw the murder and she also is doing mind writing of the murder. So Luke, give me all of this now. As I lost track of where we were talking.
Yeah. So this is the thing about the episode. Like we've just touched on the negotiation that we're not exactly sure what the details are. And again, with this part of the episode, I'm not exactly sure why the killer is set up to be focusing on this on his death all the time, and why. And it's understandable why Talia would be able to read that, because that's obviously a very potent psychic experience for any individual. But why they made him focus on that, because that's such a powerful moment in your life. Like, I don't know why they're doing that exactly. I know they want to use a computer chip or whatever's in his head to control him, but to me, that would seem to be like two opposing forces working really hard against each other. That doesn't sound very efficient to me. So, and the actor tried to convey that struggle with his shaking and convulsions and whatnot. And unfortunately, that's the part of the acting that really took me out of the moments all the time, because it just didn't feel right. I think sometimes less is more. I think he should have just maybe grimaced or something, but I don't know. But I'm not really clear why they went that direction. I know Sheridan was talking about that with Garibaldi, but I don't remember the details of what he said. But that approach to me just doesn't make any sense. If anything, I would want the person to be in a happy state so they would be much more compliant and pliable. You know what I mean? So, and yeah, it's just the idea of turning people into these robots is cool. Cybernetic. I don't know if this was meant to be their riff on Terminators or not, but these Terminators are obviously not nearly as indestructible. So there's the control aspect of it as well. And yeah, so it's an interesting concept. I just don't think it was executed quite up to the proper standards. So I'm babbling in circles now.
No. So I got the feeling, and this is just maybe I'm filling in the holes, is that as the person dies and they find a way to keep them alive and use them in this technology, they don't get to choose what is the memory they cling to. And in this case, it was his final memory. So that's why that is on there, that is on repeat, that it's like a record being stuck. That's what I did. What are your thoughts, Karen?
Yeah, I would assume that that's a memory that would stick in your brain, the moment of your death. And I think that if they didn't mention this, it's something that I drew from it, in that that's the memory they keep with you so that you don't have anything else.
Okay.
So, they can erase all your memory. And I think what they did is they blocked everything except for this main.
Okay. So then I'm right with Lou. Well, why are we doing it that way? Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
I don't understand why either, but that's what I think.
Okay. What do you guys think of, let's go to your ship, Karen. Garibaldi and Talia have a few moments. I also would like you guys to talk about that Sheridan is asking Susan about that. And Susan, in a very uncharacteristic, you know how I feel about telepath, everything, but I think you can trust her. I think you can believe in her. So Karen, give me, and I don't want to call it a love triangle, but these are three characters that we are starting to see interact.
Yeah, I do like that they're interacting with Talia more. And I think where they played that Garibaldi Talia thing for laughs before, he seems to be really trying to comfort her in this.
Yes.
And as he explained, the way that he knows how to comfort is through humor, through his dad. Right. And so that's where he approaches this. But he also, when she talks to him about it, he has sensitivity, which I appreciated. And I really liked their conversation when she invited him in for coffee or whatever. They had a really nice conversation there. And
his third favorite thing, right?
Yeah. He likes all kinds of things, I'm thinking.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, and I really liked Sheridan's chat with Susan about her because he knows her bias. So going to her was significant, knowing that if she vouched for Talia, it meant something.
Yeah.
And she did. You could trust her, she said, ultimately. And he realizes, okay, I can trust her then. If Susan can trust her, I trust her.
Yeah. Lou, how about you? Thoughts? Then I had a question.
The Susan thing is interesting because of that hesitation, and we've speculated that there might be some attraction between the two of them before. But the fact that she hesitated like that and said that she's interesting, that I don't think that her validation of Talia's character really meant much to Sheridan because of the weird answer that she gave off the top. So that, I think, negated his request of her for her evaluation of Talia. So that's interesting. And then with Garibaldi, I think that I know he does use humor to approach people and things in social situations, but I think with Talia, I do think there is some underlying attraction there because his humor is almost too much. Mm-hmm. I think he's he's trying to overcompensate, like you do when you're meeting somebody and you're still feeling each other out. You're trying to impress the other person, you have a tendency to overcompensate or try too hard, I guess is the way I would say it. So I got that feeling from that scene. And then once she called him on it, then he dialed it down, and then they started to have a more normal conversation in that. And of course, then they had tea. And Garibaldi doesn't strike me as a tea guy at all, but he may be a coffee guy, not a tea guy.
Yeah.
But then they had those nice conversations and that. So it's interesting that they've brought this element in now. And I guess that's partly to do with the way they rotate cast members through the show, this is something I would have thought would have happened sooner. But be that as it may, it'll be interesting to see where it goes forward. And then, of course, we're still trying to figure out what Susan's deal is with Talia as well. Is her reluctance just because she's, again, as we speculated, has some sort of psychic ability herself? So we'll have to see how that plays out. But it was an interesting development, and I look forward to seeing if they're going to carry these threads forward in the next episodes.
Yeah, I wonder if that's going to end up, because I truly do not remember, because it would be a small thing, but it would be funny if Garibaldi, anytime, hey, do you want a burger? Hey, a burger is my third favorite thing. If that was that was his shtick. Whatever you're offering him is his third favorite thing. I like the idea that Susan sharing that and not just immediately, oh, yeah, you can trust her, was well done. I like that Michael was able to basically, I read this as, look, I've got crap going on. I don't need you flirting with me right now, okay? I don't need you picking at me. I don't need you pulling my pigtails. And he was able to convert it differently. I like the idea that they put him in lockdown. Now, I want both of y'all's impressions. I think I noticed Garibaldi would always call Sinclair Captain out of respect, except when they were having a personal moment, he'd call him Jeff. Mm-hmm. And it feels like Sinclair called him Michael more often than not. But with Sheridan, it is always Mr. Garibaldi, which I also think is hilarious because, does he not have a rank? Is he just not part? I mean, he wears a uniform. So is that the police? Is it Captain, Police Chief Garibaldi? But he's always Mr. Garibaldi. It's always Captain. And that truly has nothing to do with the arc or story. I just noticed he never calls him Michael. It's always, hello, Mr. Garibaldi. Any thoughts on that? Either one of you?
Yeah, I just don't think they're there yet. Whereas I think that Sheridan and Susan do have that kind of,
yes,
from Io, they have an
Yeah.
existing, but we don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
They're very new to each other, especially since Garibaldi has just come out of a coma and he's still getting his bearings. Well, you weren't chief you weren't the captain when I went into a coma. So, I mean, I think that they're still finding footing with each other, and that being formal is their only way to be right now.
It's kind of a way to, as a storytelling, we talk about show, not tell. That's a way to show that they're not quite there yet.
Right.
Lou, thoughts?
I didn't really think about it until you brought it up, but he has been addressing people, but he rarely uses people's titles. I think that's a deliberate decision on his part.
Okay.
He just refers to them by either their last name or their first name at this point, because I've never heard him say, and I'm trying to think of other shows where the relationships there, but most of the time the people know each other well. They're on a first name basis or whatnot.
Yeah.
But they usually only refer to each other by their rank when they're going to call them out on something.
Yeah.
And I think that's how he uses. I think that's the way he would use rank, is say when he says like, okay, Commander Garibaldi, he's basically saying, I'm the captain, you're the commander, and I'm going to tell you something that you might not like. So I think that's how he's operating.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
Like using someone's middle name when they're in trouble.
Yeah, exactly.
Karen Jean Pierce.
Yeah. Jesse Wayne. Yes. All right. So Talia spent some time today. Let's talk about Talia and what were your thoughts on her? Karen, you first.
Well, it was nice to hear more about her background with the Psi Corps. And now we understand why she's so bought into it. That's the only life she's known. And she talks about being taken from her parents at 3. And to me, that's tragic. But to her, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And having this like nanny, I guess, Abby. But she knows that Abby was like scanning her and, not just her nanny, but her minder, her keeper.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And she is okay with all this. And that bothers me a bit. So it really pushes that Psi Corps being nefarious thing.
Yeah, she's her wrangler, to put it in Station 11 terms, right? Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Lou, thoughts?
Yeah, I think it was quite telling when Susan told Sheridan that she can be trusted, but she's extremely loyal to Psi Corps, because we saw that play out in the episode. She had that flash to the Bureau 13 agent that we saw in the wasted San Diego wasteland. That just showed that was totally true. Now, what Talia is going to do with that information going forward, I'm very curious to see. I think Karen made a great point about the nanny and whatnot. And in terms of relationships, I think that's, for Talia, that's probably lowest on the totem pole of her things that she ranks as important. Her first seems to be the loyalty to the Psi Corps. And I think maybe we'll see this with all the telepaths in the Babylon 5, is I think there's because of the fact that they have this ability, I think there's just a natural social distancing. It's like they're wearing a COVID mask all the time. Mm-hmm. Other people are around them are keeping their distance because of this ability. So that's got to be tough too. And to find people that can overlook that would be rare, I would think. But it's because the rules of psychics in the Babylon 5 universe hasn't been established clearly. It's hard to know how generally people act to them, because it would be cool if she was walking through the concourse or whatever, and people would just widen a gap like she's a trout swimming upstream, and all these people just part like the Red Sea. But you don't really see that happening. I think that would have been a good visual, but because most people just seem to ignore her. Obviously, not everybody knows that she's a psychic, but the regular people on the station would, I would think.
Well, she wears the gloves. So
yeah, that's true.
That's assuming that it's a tell. One of the things, and this will tell you where my mind is, and you guys can probably guess already. If she were to have relations, what does that do to her? Because just touching them sometimes makes her crazy. Can she shut that off? I mean, so this episode brings it into focus for me a little bit because of the flirtation with Garibaldi. They don't ever touch or anything. So, I mean, how separate does she have to keep things? And that's one of the things I think about with her. And it's not just the sex part. It's just
Karen,
anything.
you romantic, you.
Yeah. Or horn dog.
I'm curious about that too, because I would think that having a partner that could read your mind, if you're in that state, it would probably be a two-way thing. And I think it would just deepen the experience, so to speak. And that's very interesting. I don't know if they're ever going to get to that, but there might be a point where she really has an attraction to somebody and they get to that state in their relationship. How do they handle that? That would be interesting to see.
So you never watched Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist, I'm guessing, because it's not up your alley.
I did. I loved it.
Okay, so they had that whole scene where the guy that she's trying to get with keeps singing while they're doing it. And he has to try and sing Take Me Out to the Ball Game. She hears heart songs. So if someone's having strong emotion near them, she sees them and hears them singing.
You mean like the group heart?
No, so the premise is she now, and they never explained why, but if we're talking and she will all of a sudden hear you and see you on TV sing a song, which is telling your inner thoughts.
Right.
Okay.
And you don't, and so it's very well filmed.
It's great.
Like it'll talk about, no, I'm perfectly really happy. Glad you're doing this. And then all of a sudden you hear alone again, naturally, that you're thinking. And so there is a point where she's having intimacy. They're having sex and he's trying to think things so that things will last longer. And she can hear all this. I will tell you that we get in the next the next 4 seasons, we get more and more information about the Corps and the Psi Corps. So you guys are asking all the right questions. And I think some of these will be answered either directly or implied. But I'm thinking back of that A Few Good Men, where they talk about the Marines and Dawson says unit, corps, God, country. Right?
Okay.
Like my first duty is to my unit, then to the Marine Corps, then to God, and then the country.
Okay.
And I think Psi Corps would be corp. I don't know if they would do God, but so I think you're absolutely right. It pushes. Talia is, and I think she's a good person based on what I've seen so far and even based on future viewing, but the Corps will always be her number one priority. If I have to choose, it's similar to really strong Muslims or Catholics, or it could just be their number one priority.
Yeah, but this whole thing with Bureau 13, now there's some doubt in her mind. So I wonder about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about Bureau 13. So the first thing, and this is very widely known, there was a game that had a Bureau 13 in it, and they ended up suing Babylon 5. And so they had to drop that name.
Oh, okay.
Larry DiTillo said, and by the way, I did pull out my Other Voices.
Very nice.
Which is a script book, and it gives me the script to Spider in the Web, and it actually gives me an interview with him. And he talked about that. He said, the good news is we left it vague that it could be called other things. So we didn't have to totally drop the storyline, but you will not hear the phrase Bureau 13 again, but there will be other things going on.
So, and we won't hear Section 13 either?
I do not think so, no.
Okay.
And the reason why San Diego...
Klinger.
Yeah, and the reason San Diego is been bombed is that JMS says, I'd lived in San Diego once before, and he loved the city, but he just thought, I've got to pick a city anyway. Just tribute to my friends in San Diego. By the way, you've been new. So, yeah.
I just figured because of the naval base or something. So it was a military target.
Exactly. That makes sense. So I like the idea that Sheridan loves conspiracies. I like the idea that it doesn't look like it makes him unhealthy, doesn't make him a bad commander, but he just likes these mysteries, whether they're classic ones, historical, or modern. So, Lou, thoughts on our captain thinking there is a cabal running things behind the scenes everywhere.
Again, because this is so unclear.
Yeah.
My first impression when Sheridan reveals that he likes all these conspiracy things is trying to go, well, that has a really negative connotation in today's world.
Yes, it is.
So
Yes, it
I'm
does.
I'm not gonna go there, because I don't think that was intended at all by the story point. I do find, I guess, when you're on a ship out in deep space, you've got to find a hobby and he likes mystery. So I would have preferred that he was more of just like to read mystery novels or something or he liked Sherlock Holmes or something like that. But if he likes these conspiracy theories, that's one thing. And it brings around an interesting point that we hadn't talked yet with the Jessica Walters' appearance as a senator. Again, I don't understand the power structure in the Babylon 5 universe, because can any senator call him up and tell him what to do? Like, I didn't understand at all. Like, wouldn't she have worked that through some military channel or whatever the Babylon 5 command structure is, and have it done that way? Like, why would he, as a captain, and I don't know, is Babylon 5 considered what branch of government is it? Is it a military branch, or is it I don't know what it would be.
So I think they are part of EarthGov. Because they are part of the Earth's military, but I also think it's a political appointment. Yeah, I think EarthGov is. Yeah, I think so.
Okay, because Babylon 5 is not a military installation, so it's more like a United Nations thing. So I don't know if it really is a military, but I don't know. It might be, but I would be kind of surprised to find that. So I was confused as to why a senator could call him up, at least go through the president or something like that.
Yeah.
like who's she? Like, she's obviously representing a lobby group for Earth. And I think this has something to do, it's like the oil sector. Like, they don't want to lose that. They have total control of Mars because of the resources that Mars currently needs, unless this proposal by some of these names are so hard to remember.
Yeah.
Soga,
yeah.
who projecting here again that I think his proposal has something to do with some way of Mars cutting its reliance upon Earth in terms of natural resources. So this whole lobby group thing is going on, and then there's this even deeper Bureau 13, which is that going to become the word that we never speak of going forward, but is operating at an even deeper black state level to do these things. And they're setting up more levels. Like, it's not bad enough that we have to worry about all these shadow people. Now we've got to worry about all these government institutions and black op things going on at the same time. And yeah, so there's a lot going on here, and I'm sure that it's all going to be working at conflicting purposes at some time. But overall, I think I was disappointed that Sheridan actually followed up on her request. And I took it as a request, but it's one of those requests that's not really a request. So because we don't know the political landscape fully of the Babylon 5 universe, I'll have to reserve judgment on that. But I have to admit, I was a little disappointed that he actually carried out the orders that she gave him.
Karen?
Yeah, I'll tell you this, because in case you guys don't remember, Lou is Canadian, and even Jesse might not know this, but my father was the treasurer of the Carpenters Union of America.
Okay.
Part of his job was to run the special interest part of the Carpenters Union, which meant he was a lobbyist. And senators, congressmen, mayors, governors, they called him all the time and tried to impose things on him. So yeah, senators and stuff, they think they're much more important than they really are. And I would assume that it's only worse in the future because they're senators of the whole earth instead of just the United States. So I guess I didn't find it as weird, but there's also the whole thing with the president was just installed from the vice president. Things are in flux. So yeah, someone else in the know might be the one to contact him about it. But yeah, I am actually more upset that Jessica Walter doesn't come back again, because in IMDb it just says one episode, which means that he'll be interacting with someone else in the government. This is like the third time that a senator or someone, the president even in the what was it, 2 episodes ago, contacts someone on Babylon 5 directly. So we've seen like all sorts of people try and inflict their will on Babylon 5. So yeah.
But Karen, do senators contact military leaders and tell them what to do? I
can't imagine that they wouldn't, though, that they wouldn't try.
Yeah, I think so a couple things, and I think these are great questions. My first thought is, for the past 30 years, I've worked either as a member of a call center, now called contact centers, or I've led one. And I will tell you, every department wants to tell the customer service center how to do their job. And everyone thinks they can do it better than you can.
Oh my God.
Until you actually have to do it. And then they're like, oh, wow, this is hard.
Yep.
So that's coming from my cynical thing. The other part is, I think that both Sinclair and Sheridan have dual roles, or maybe even triple roles. One, they're a commander of this base, but they're also Earth's representative in this council. So they're also an ambassador. And so therefore, a senator not following the chain of command would just go directly to him, lobbying and pushing for their agenda. And now I would think it's maybe like in the US, there's like in both of the House of Representatives and the Senate, you'll have the Armed Forces Committee. And so that they are the representatives in charge of the armed forces. And so therefore they have a lot of sway because they're the ones who get budgets passed and such. So, and I also think that in our perspective, there's only 100 senators in the US. And so they think they're very important.
Mm-hmm. So could you see a weaselly-faced senator, say like from the state of Texas?
Yes.
Maybe call someone in the armed forces to try and get something done? Yes, 100%.
Yeah, I could
see
too.
T. Cruz doing that.
Yeah, I absolutely could too. So
I'm not saying it's right.
No, and I think
it should be done, but
and I think, and you wonder how close is Sheridan, because he just got the role. Like Sinclair he was all out of F's.
Right.
Like, I'm going to do what I want to do. I don't care. Is John a little nervous that, okay, I'm trying to go through the minefield that's in a golf course to try to figure out what do I do? So
yeah,
but I think
he's
it's
still feeling things out.
Yeah, I think it's a valid nitpick, and it's also, I think it should, and I think we will see that it makes him angry sometimes, right?
Well, I could see he was frustrated in this one even. So.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else we need to discuss in this episode?
Yes. My biggest nitpick.
Please.
Okay. Talia goes to meet with Adrienne Barbeau.
Yeah.
They walk her right up to the door and they say, bye now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Someone's after her. Go in.
Even in the cheesiest of cop shows, which I love, let me check the parameter, right? They walk through clear. Right. Okay, now you're free to get in.
Exactly. Yeah. And they didn't at all. And it was Garibaldi standing right there.
Yeah.
The chief of security standing right there. He would know. By the way, the door's just open.
Yeah.
She didn't get permission from Adrienne Barbeau to go in because she was knocked out.
Yeah.
So that means that this guy could be in there easy. Yes. How does that work? That the door just opens for anybody on this ship? It's problematic to me, and also quite a hole to plunge through. That they would just let her walk in. Okay, that's my big nitpick.
No, I think that's agree. How about you? You got any nitpicks or final thoughts, Luke?
I think I've voiced all mine.
Okay.
So no, that's about it.
And then, go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh. I was just going to say, as I said, I'm curious to see what to do with the Talia storyline, that she's seen the agent from the section not to be named any longer. And she also showed up as deceased. So is she another one of these soldiers, or is she, or is that just a more common story thread that, agents are usually listed as being deceased and come resurface somewhere else, which I think is probably more likely for her.
It is, by the way, according to JMS on Lurker's Guide, basically Garibaldi's third favorite thing is whatever the member of the opposite sex is having.
Oh, okay. So tea is his third favorite thing.
Yes. So if you were doing, hey, let's have
But does anybody ever ask him what his first two favorite things
We know what his first two favorite things are. I'm assuming it's food and sex.
Sex and more sex.
Yes, it could be that too. And also we had that really just glossed over thing with the new delegation coming on board. And they didn't even show them, but they mentioned them 3 or 4 times that this was going to be a new delegation. They wanted to get them on board as part of their cabal. I mean, whatever, to draw them in, the Takar.
And the other item is that the section Bureau 13 is talking to somebody called Control. And we don't know who this person is. So somebody on Babylon 5 is a secret agent.
Double agent, yeah.
Yeah,
there's that too. But yeah, I was curious about this new delegation, and it feels like they slipped it in under the radar in this episode. So
good. All right.
Not say anything about that, huh?
No.
All righty.
Not. All right. I will start out. I think this was a very solid episode with some great guest stars. So I'm going to give it 7.5 cups of tea. Lou?
Why you got to do that?
Yeah.
Why you got to take tea?
Yeah. An episode really helped by a lot of great guest stars. And I'm right there with you. I'll give it 7.5 Slaver's Gloves.
Ooh, nice.
There you go.
All right.
Yeah.
Karen?
And how difficult was that? He had a fake hand over a glove over his real hand.
Yes.
That had to be difficult to do.
Absolutely.
I mean, for that alone, he's a good actor, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
He's not. Okay. So I'm going to give it, I think, an 8. An 8 sexy elevator rides.
Nice. Very good. Okay. Cool. So I don't remember us getting, I don't think we got emails.
I didn't see any.
I didn't either. Lou, did we? No.
Well, because the episode went up only like yesterday.
Yeah, okay.
So I've only got a couple of comments. Okay. I think I'll just save them till next
All right, that
episode.
sounds good. All right, good. All right. Next time, we have this episode's Soulmates, written by Peter David, one of my favorite writers.
Interesting.
Yes.
Awesome.
And before I started watching Babylon 5, I was at a convention where he and Murin Ferlin were at, and I will tell stories about that next time.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah. So, spoilers, this is one of my favorite episodes, and mostly because I love Peter David. And by the way, shout out to Peter. He just had another stroke and is recovering. And so sending good thoughts to, as I said, just someone who has written some of the best Star Trek novels, the Hulk run, just really any character that you love in the Marvel and DC universe. He's probably written a story about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's a very prolific writer.
All around good writer. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Karen, how can they reach you?
I am at Elevaria. Just search for that on the Twitter machine, on all these other new platforms.
Okay.
And there's a link in my bio to my blog at which you can find all my other links.
All right. Lou?
You can find me on YouTube at Lou's Reviews, where you'll find this podcast along with a Stephen King podcast, the Writers Podcast, and our JKLM Media Podcast. And we're currently 3/4 of the way through Station 11, and it's a good one. Things are really heating up, and I think everybody should try to listen to that when it comes out.
Yeah, we're going to do a dump on that. It has been a lot of fun talking about that. JKLB5podcast@gmail.com is the email address. I am at Jesse Jackson DFW on Twitter. We would love to hear your thoughts and share your opinions. If you can answer some of the questions that Karen and Lou have proposed.
Without spoiling anything.
Yes, without spoiling anything. We'd love to hear it. Oh, I did forget. I love Garibaldi saying, "Let Mr. Wizard try." And then he just screws up. This cockiness of him was very, very funny. Yes. Mm-hmm. And I think that's it. So listeners, be safe, be kind. We'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. And scene.